was Jordan Neely. Okay. So, of course, the woke left, they're already making, they're like, kind of like, remember St. Floyd? They're making him into their newest, I guess, patron saint of jerking off on subways. They're venerating him.
Oh, so you want fewer cops?
Yeah. Okay. That's about what I expected.
Define justice.
Just white people dying to be part of something.
It's really scary to watch
Israel Adesanya doing there.
be engaged with in a violent way. To
He's
see
transitioning.
how a lot of us are closer to homelessness than we are to being millionaires. And so to see someone be treated like that as a homeless person is scary for people who are unhoused. It's scary for people who are at risk of being homeless, whose rent is overdue, whose rent is being increased, whose shelter is the next step. So it's really, really scary. That is going through a housing crisis to see homeless people being murdered.
Stop calling the cops because someone's asking you for
She's hysterical. You're hysterical. Oh, man, she'd be fun to date.
Every single thing there is
in the sink.
Is victim, 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 race.
Yeah.
Victim, victim, race. Victim, victim, race. That's all they're doing. As our rent goes up. Oh, okay. Let me ask you this. Remember rent forgiveness? You didn't pay rent for a while. Was there mortgage forgiveness? And I don't want to call these people landlords. I want to call them home providers. How about that? Were the home providers absolved? What do you think happens when you don't pay rent for I don't know how many months or years, depending on the state? This is not consequence free. And it's not because you're black, okay? It's not because you're a victim white woman or that your guess is as good as mine with the necklace there and the Swiffer haircut. I don't know what that was. I don't want to misgender it, but it's weird. It doesn't matter what you look like. The rent's due and you didn't pay it, and that person wasn't forgiven. Now, Congresswoman Ayanna Presley, and I'm going to get to the criminal record here because I think it matters. I think it's important. Ayanna Presley tweeted out the video that you all know of Neely as though this is the only relevant portion as just as happy-go-lucky Michael Jackson impersonator. Which, by the way, if you want to, I guess, be imbued with the power of innocence and being blameless, if you're going to pick a celebrity, like you could have gone worse with OJ, but Michael Jackson wouldn't be my first choice. Yeah, okay.
That's all the footage they have. That's
all the footage.
All they have.
That's every move. And it didn't even moonwalk.
Right. I can do that right now. Sorry.
Yeah. He asked for money.
Let's do it, but in a little bit.
I haven't stretched, but you know what I mean.
Well, you know what? We'll stretch. We'll do it on the Mug Club thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Presley, by the way, also included her own diatribe.
I've watched TikTok. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
I want to hear her. At least
she said, "Black men deserve to grow old."
Huh.
Well, okay. First off, tell that to actuary tables. Like, in other words, black men die younger, and they die younger because of the bullshit that you guys spew. You know, big and beautiful is healthy. No, it's not. There's an obesity problem, right? There are heart problems in the black community. You actually encourage them to be dependent on government programs, EBT, welfare. The black life expectancy is less in this country, and you want to say it's food deserts. Hey, let me ask you this. What do you think? By the way, food desert is bullshit nowadays. You can order anything online. I just ordered a 12-pack of sardines for Joe Louis. It cost me a third of the price as it would go into Sprouts. But my point is, what do you think creates food deserts? Hey, you have to give them free shit. But hold on a second, I own this store. Hey, you have to let them shoplift. Really? All of it? Only if it's under $999. I'm taking my business elsewhere. Food desert! So black men deserve to grow old, not be lynched on a subway because they were having a mental health crisis. I don't know if you know this. Sometimes mental health crisis results in the massacres of people.
Correct.
They do, yes.
Yeah.
Prolonged mental health crises.
Yes, because Neely, this doesn't mean that Neely should have died, that deserved to die.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. But the idea that it was just a white man lynching a black man as opposed to a white man, a black man, and a Hispanic man trying to subdue a crazy, violent, routine felon is dishonest. Neely had been arrested. Take a guess. What would be enough? Okay.
10 times.
What would be enough for it to be relevant? In other words, let's say we're just looking at this right through your eye, like children's eyes. You know, Gloria Estefan or Amy Grant, whatever the Christmas song is. I want to see Christmas through your eyes.
Yeah.
I want to see felonies through your eyes. How many would be relevant if you're going, okay, this guy doesn't know this person. Here's this person we end up trying to subdue. And these are the amounts of felonies or crimes or arrests that would probably lean toward me being inclined to believe that he was a threat. How many would be relevant to sort of
starting at 5.
Starting at 5.
I think you got it. I mean, right?
You say 5?
You know what I mean?
I have 5 right here. What do you say?
5 is my number.
5's a lot. Like,
all right.
This is the 4th time I've told you. You better not be here a 5th time.
Especially, yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
3 strikes usually, but
I counted to 3, but I'm going to give you the grace, the 2 grace felonies.
That's it.
The long
That's a
3.
lot. That's
What
a
if
very
I told
lenient
you
judge.
Neely,
Yeah.
Michael Jackson himself,
Yeah.
not himself.
Want to get AIDS?
42 arrests.
Whoa.
42.
Since 2013.
10
no.
years. That's an average of
That's-
4.2 a year.
42 arrests. And I know people will say, well, that's just because he's homeless. They make it a crime to be homeless. Bullshit. 4 of the arrests were for assault, and 1 was an active warrant for felony assault in 2021. Let me give you the New York definition of felony assault. It's serious physical injury to another person. My point is, would you immediately jump to murderer if the guy who was trying to subdue him, let's just say he has, for the sake of argument, likely no arrests, which would be in line with a lot of people who are Marines.
Right.
Let's say, though, that maybe it's 42 compared to 1 or 2. In other words, who would you be more inclined to believe was initiating some kind of incidents of violence? 42 arrests. We don't know anything about this guy. Well, I bet the cops know, because what probably happened is they went, all right, what happened? You took this man, this is horrible. Let me see the footage. Okay, well, I'm not quite sure. Who was it? Oh, George. Oh, 42 arrests. We still have an active warrant on him. You're free to go, sir.
After 30, and you're the judge, after 30.
Yeah.
Well, is there ever a conversation where it's like, you better not be here a 31st time?
Yes.
And then after 40,
Yeah.
you know, it's
like, well,
this is what you do.
Right.
After a while, it's like, it's what you do. You
Right.
go out in society,
Well, and-
you create a big enough problem for somebody to call the cops, and then you get arrested. So this is what you do all the time.
It's your thing.
It's your thing.
It's your calling card.
It's your career. It's what you're.
I'm the recurring bandit.
Right. So you clearly have something. Something is wrong.
Yes.
You know.
But what kind
of? You know, aside from the fact that the Michael Jackson white face is very
That's
offensive
true.
to me.
Yeah, it is as well.
But you know what I'm saying. But at the end of the day,
Depends on the era of the
When
point
do
you
they?
made,
When does the justice system go? We got to keep this guy in a hospital
But that's
at
the
the
thing.
very least.
That's the thing. This guy had been in and out of shelters, right? So he understood where to go to get help if he really and truly wanted it. He actually went to a shelter that was a little bit, they had more privacy and they had a little bit more, it's a safer kind of shelter than maybe the normal one. He actually was in that. He had been street performing, I think.
It became less safe
let me
once he
be
was
the
in it. But no, hold on a second. I want to hear.
Maybe over 13, 15 years, people had talked to him. Like, they understand, like, this guy was out there, and this guy may not have always been a problem, but at least 42 times he was.
No.
And
But
at
let
what
me be
point-
the liberal here. The liberal would say, this is a man who clearly has a mental health
Yes.
imbalance. He's not in control of his own behavior.
Okay, if you're the liberal,
it
are you
doesn't
the
mean I
liberal
want
in
him to
this?
die. I want him to get help and be
Exactly.
protected from and be in a position where he's sequestered so he doesn't disrupt society.
Okay, do you have a room at your house available?
Yes.
That would be my first question. Look, he has been to these
You did
places.
not commit to method acting. The answer every time from a liberal is not in my
Not
room.
in my room.
Should have known
I'm
better.
already
We'll work
housing
on it.
refugees.
I agree, and I 100% agree. Look, you're never going to be able to completely solve the problem, but what you cannot do is vilify somebody standing up and saying, look, not on this subway car today, not me, not the woman that you saw in the background, not any of these other passengers. I'm going to subdue this guy and wait on the cops. You cannot vilify somebody for doing that. Now, if he intentionally kills him and was yelling out racial epithets and I finally got one or something like that, fine, we can talk about that. That's different.
Which, by the way, would not be the native affectation
would
for a
not.
New Yorker.
I feel like Gerald's been through this in his mind. I finally got one.
Finally got one,
Gerald.
In his mind, racists are like from Remember the Titans. Like they're not
He's from Tennessee,
Yeah.
from the rural Mississippi.
I'm not going to play football with no colors. That's how he thinks racists are.
I
You
know.
gotta understand it's a little
Wonderful
more.
my nest.
What a stereotypical impression of a racist, Gerald.
No, I'm just
Slavery was
saying, like,
okay.
Some racists have been to college.
Yeah, he thinks it's what?
New York, if you want to solve this problem, if you want a mental health crisis to be handled differently, more police officers, please. More police officers, because then the general public doesn't feel the need. It's, hey, police officer, this guy's threatening everybody.
This has happened exactly in our history. It's happened throughout the world, but it has happened exactly in the American history since the 1960s through today. And we talked about it. This is not new. And again, why do you only care about the felon committing 44, at least arrested 42 times? Why don't you care at all about, hey, what happened to, believe all women? What happened to stop Asian hate, considering those statistics? you want to guess that some of those people who were assaulted, just based on statistical realities, likely were Asian in the city of New York, but they're no longer useful pawns. What happened to stopping sexual assault against women? Hey, hold on a second. I don't know if you know this. Someone who's been arrested 42 times, including for multiple violent counts, far more likely to rape a woman than the person Lena Dunham had regretful sex with and found a condom in a potted plant. Just to be clear, you want to protect women? I don't know. Cut it off at, ooh, this guy's been violent and this guy's actually committed all kinds of crimes, including sexual, 42 times. Let's maybe find a way to protect people who deserve protecting. It's one of the few legitimate roles of government. This is one thing libertarians get so wrong. And by the way, I'm not talking about militarization of the police. One of the few legitimate roles of government is to ensure that people like this don't continue to interact with people who have not committed violent crimes. It's one of their few roles.
But you'd have to then, what I never hear from the liberal side, they never talk about homelessness being a result of drug addiction and mental illness. You never hear that.
Well,
and
they
that's
do.
What's going on.
But then they say but that's the thing, so we just need to give them drugs.
He was hungry and he had no house. Yeah. That's what they're talking about.
Right.
That's not true.
Right.
This was a guy who clearly had major mental health problems.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are plenty of housing solutions. Most people don't want to use them, just to be clear.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, put on a propeller cap and walk your way into a Ronald McDonald house. I think those are still around. The point is, they're easy to trick. Now, this happened in New York City. Let's look at this. The New York City subway. Murders between 2020 and 2022, highest in 25 years. Wow. Okay. Wow. At the same time, police resignations, those are up 117%. Response times are potentially their worst ever, just to be clear. Let's look at the recent New York City violence. Okay, do we have a montage for this? I just want to make sure. Is there a montage or the individual clips? Because we were putting this all together today. And I have a clip here that says
We have a montage.
We have a montage. Yeah. So let me just run through the list and then let's go to a montage in case you've forgotten. Imagine you're in New York City. I want to set the stage here. Okay? You're in New York City. Again, all references available at louderwithcrowder.com. Crime is at its highest in the subways, 25 years. Police resignations up 117%. Crime overall, violent crime, is skyrocketing. And of course, police response times are extended. And you don't have the right to protect yourself or carry a gun. And criminals are just basically professional recidivists. Okay. All right. So now let's go through the list. You've been living through this. You've been living through an example of Christina Yu Lee was stabbed 40 times by an aggressive, crazy man named Assam Adanash. Killer was on supervised release. You have Michelle Yeoh was killed when Simon Marshall pushed her on 2 subway tracks. You have Frank James, remember the radicalized black nationalist who opened fire in a subway, which was, I think it injured something like 29
people.
And you have to take all of this into account, all of this crime, and you are living through this in New York City when this man, arrested 42 times, walks onto your subway. Do you think that maybe in the back of your mind, maybe whether you're white or black, like one of the other people, or Hispanic, like the man who was filming, do you think that maybe these images might play a role on your mental state? Kids, leave the room.
Someone reported that anti-gay attack in the arm. He and his wife were also spit at on a northbound
FAA tracking a 24-year-old passenger who kicks back. Then the 40-year-old swings an umbrella at her with a keychain in hand, which police say cut the victim's face.
As the northbound N train pulled into 36th Street Station.
So you're living through that in New York City.
It makes me violent.
It makes reasonable people capable of, I wouldn't even say unreasonable things. It makes non-violent people capable of violent things. We'll talk to you. A lot of you young people who watch, most of you right are under the age of 40, or actually most of you are under the age of 30 who watch or listen right now. You may not know about Bernie Getz. We're going to touch on that. That's relevant. This happened exactly, almost this scenario in the past. Of course, this guy didn't actually go out and shoot anybody, but Bernie Getz was assaulted on the subway. Got himself a firearm to protect, was assaulted again and shot people. Now, he went back for a second round because he had had enough, but the point is, this is the kind of culture that you breed. Of course, none of this is relevant to professional racist Al Sharpton, because if racism were to get better, he'd be out of a job. He made sure to jump in on the convo, condemning vigilantism. And this is what he wrote, or this is what he said. I don't know, I'm reading a quote from National Action Network. How many assholes can you fit in a room? Now, it says, police investigate this horrific incident as a potential case of manslaughter. if not murder. This is him reading a prompter.
Yeah.
And then he brings up glossing past what most people, this is the thing, when most people in America heard about Bernie Getz, they said, I get it. And since it didn't work then, right? It didn't work then when they were trying to tell you, hey, you should all hate Bernie Getz because it was a whole soft on crime, right? Liberal media. Retroactively, now they try and act as though Bernie Getz was different than it was. Kind of like, I don't know if you remember this, when Ronald Reagan died, the media was so surprised at the mourning because it didn't work when they tried to make you hate him when he was president. And then they were surprised, like, hey, look at everyone showing up. Yeah, because people liked him. Kind of the same situation with Bernie Getz. So Al Sharpton said, 30 years ago, I fought the Bernie Getz case, and we cannot end up back to a place where vigilantism, you know the word I'm trying to read, is tolerable. It wasn't acceptable then, it was, and it cannot be acceptable now. Oh, that's debatable. Yep. So, funny he brings up Bernie Getz. How many people here are familiar with Bernie Getz?
Me.
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
Yeah, it was covered.
I was in New York at the time.
He got so much support initially. So much support. Everybody's like, yep, I've been on the subway too. I get it.
Yep. People were so fed up.
I know.
It was just story after story.
It was Bernie Getz. He was robbed twice. Yeah. Okay? And then he shot 4 teenagers who then threatened him, tried to rob him again on a subway in 1984.
Yep.
He was convicted for possession of an illegal weapon, and he served under a year in jail.
Right.
Just to be clear, because you're not allowed to have a firearm, basically. That's really what it was. But this was a guy, what I would like to see a research team is bring up the injuries, the extent of Bernie Getz's injuries with the first assault that had taken place. This was a guy who ended up in the hospital. I think he couldn't walk for a significant amount of time. I believe his neck was broken. And at a certain point, he just said, hey, it's not happening to me again. And here's what's interesting. Bernie Getz, after this incident, how many other people did he shoot? You think you're getting close to 42 arrests? That's one thing that people don't talk about. There's a huge difference between someone who is a law-abiding citizen who is pushed too far versus someone who has decided that they are going to prey on law-abiding citizens until they are pushed too far. Bernie Getz did not go on to live the life of a criminal. Bernie Getz snapped. He Ralphied the thugs who tried to rob him again. That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
How many more subway incidences like that? The train car, not the sandwich shop. How many more do you think have to take place for people to respond? Like, this wasn't a Bernie Getz situation, but I'm telling you, you're going to get it. If you haven't already, that's where this is going. Hey, the good news is there's a solution. There's a solution, leftists. Solution is, you know what? Keep people in prison.
Yeah.
Keep people in prison if they're committing violent crimes. This is one thing that I always used to disagree with, and even libertarians, like the prison industrial complex. Of course, no one should be arrested for a gram of weed. But 42? I don't give a shit if it's a privatized prison. I want them locked up.
Yep.
My problem with the violent criminal is a greater problem than that I have with the prison industrial complex. Even though I do. I have problems with both. I think our system is more broken in tolerating violent criminals preying upon nonviolent people and then condemning people when they respond with violence. And in this case, we didn't even have it. We didn't even have a man respond with proactive violence. They're going to label him a murderer anyway. And you know what's going to happen? People are going to see this, and the next time they're going to say to themselves, well, I'm going to be labeled a murderer anyway, and fan the hammer. Why do you mistrust your institutions? Why do you think? We just gave you a situation where, based on all credible evidence that we have right now, we don't know what's developing, seems like involuntary manslaughter and certainly doesn't seem like murder. But you have the media, you have the print, you have your elected representatives already lying to try and destroy somebody's life. Why don't you trust your institutions? Well, let's just start with those, our elected representatives and our media and entertainment industry. Let's start with those, and maybe you have a reason now. Yeah, Hootie, you were about to bring something in.
Yeah, we got the injuries to Bernie Getz after the robbery. They threw him through a plate glass door and onto the ground, permanently injuring his chest and knee. Despite his injuries, he was able to assist a police officer in arresting one of the men. There were 3 of them that robbed him, and they also... one of them was only charged with criminal mischief.
Mischief.
That mischievous rapscallion.
Stop throwing people through glass.
Stop positively concaving that small Jew's chest.
So naughty.
I counted to 3, but I'll give you 2 more, you know.
How long do you think they reprise the Dirty Harry series? Because I'm telling you, people in Hollywood, there's a strike right now. I guarantee there are people in Hollywood right now at the top of the food chain who are writing, who are seeing an opening. Because I remember watching Dirty Harry and those movies. Yep. I remember as a kid people clapping in the movie theater. They were like, yes, finally.
Were you here the day we did this segment on Dirty Harry? We did a whole segment on Dirty Harry and on Death Wish and the reason for them and the result of them and how there was a disconnect between people and the media. This is the environment right now. You're absolutely right.
Somebody's going to make some money.
Really quickly, let's go to CNN. So in the Proud Boys case, 4 of the Proud Boys have been convicted of seditious conspiracy. I think there were 6 that were on trial and 4 have been convicted.
Those are the first ones, I believe.
Yeah, seditious conspiracy.
Seditious.
Can someone give me the definition of seditious conspiracy?
I believe conspiring to overthrow the government.
Okay.
Such a big word.
Okay.
You're being seditious.
I think that's sedition.
You're guilty not of criminal mischief, but being seditious.
Well, I know what sedition is. I'm wondering if there's a difference between sedition, actual sedition, and seditious conspiracy.
Well, you're conspiring to do sedition.
Yes. You're conspiring to do seditious things.
I don't know. Yeah, seditious conspiracy is a crime in various jurisdictions of conspiring against authority or legitimacy of the state.
Okay, so overthrowing the government.
Okay, so on a second. There. So,
being naughty.
Read it again, Hootie.
Here, I'll bring it up. So, seditious conspiracy is a crime in various jurisdictions of conspiring against the authority or legitimacy of the state.
Conspiring against the authority or legitimacy. All right. Right now, charge me with seditious conspiracy of AOC. I question the broad's legitimacy.
Yes.
When she says this guy's a murderer, seditious conspiracy, illegitimate.
I like it.
Illegitimate. How about that? That's how broad that definition is. Think about that. Really why do you mistrust your institutions? Think of how broad that is. People will act like it's Guy Fawkes, for crying out loud. It just means that you were trying to question the legitimacy or hamper the integrity, the perceived legitimacy. AOC is a liar and an illegitimate representative because she doesn't respect the laws of her constituents she claims to represent. How about that? There. Illegitimate. Seditious conspiracy. Everyone else, hey, want to sign your name on that guest list?
Yeah. I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
All right, good.
Yes.
Confirmed.
We're all seditious conspiracy theorists.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.